Hey there. We were talking about index funds in the previous course. We'll pick up from where we left off. In the last one, just to do a quick recap, we looked at a number of index funds. We looked at the performance of some of those funds, but not much in detail. And that's what we're going to do here. We reviewed a bunch of funds, looked at what they are, the industries or the sectors they cater to, they happen to be in, the exposure they have to both the US and the rest of the world, and a number of other related items with those index funds. In this one, we'll just continue, keep chugging along, but we'll keep our focus here to the extent possible on numbers and their performance. Of course, a quick disclaimer: this is not financial advice. I don't claim to be a financial advisor because I'm not one. Use this for entertainment purposes and educational purposes only. With that said, let's get started. Sharing my screen. So this is the document we used in the last course as well. If you have not watched or purchased that course, I highly recommend you do so. I don't know how we end up publishing this, maybe as one course or maybe two different ones. If they end up being published as two different ones, then I highly recommend you check that one out so you get context to this course, essentially. Okay, so let's see the index funds and let's look at the. So just a quick recap on the funds. I don't know what the exact number of index funds we looked at. It's here in this document. We looked at the tech index funds, the broad market and core indices. We looked at the China ETFs and mutual funds of all of these essentially because some of them have the mutual fund equivalent. Technology and semiconductor funds, healthcare, real estate, consumables, discretionary industry, and maybe one other. I think if I missed something here, but that's the gist of what we actually had seen in the previous one. What we'll do here is take a deeper look at each of these. Let's start. I have SPY, VOO, the Vanguard S&P 500, VTI, VTSAX, IWM, and QQQ, right? So those are the ones. Let me close the other ones. Yep, I believe those are the six. So, we also talked in the last course about the cost of these funds. Some of these are actually all of these, right? We looked at the allocation, the percentages, the country exposure, and I don't know if we maybe didn't go. No, actually, now that I think about it, we did not. I alluded to the cost of investing in each of these, meaning the fee that you would have to pay the fund managers, but we didn't go into much detail in that video, so we can do that here as well. So let's look at S&P 500, the first one. You're probably familiar with this, right? And we looked at the allocation, the top 10 allocation within these funds. I won't go into those details again here because it's just going to be redundant. We look at the rest of the numbers. So let me move my window all the way here. Let me actually open one more. Go to seeking alpha. I'll go to SPY. Okay, so the last year, we are at the beginning of the year in 2026. So looking at year to date really does not mean much. There's been like 5 or 6 trading days this year. So we'll ignore year to date, which if we had done it later on in the year, we would have definitely looked at it more carefully. But for now, we'll just look at 1 year return. Let me make this window, yeah, a little bit narrower. So we look at 1, 5, and maybe even 10 years. So let's take the S&P 500. The last 10 years, it's returned 264%. I mean, that's incredible. Of course, if you took an average, it doesn't turn out to be, you cannot really take an average, but just if you do the ballpark and divided it by the 10 years, it's about 26% per year. Now, because it's compounded, that number is not going to be identical, but I think it's all right to take that because it is going to give us a good exposure to how these funds have performed. So 264% for S&P in the last decade. The last 5 years, 83%, and the last year, almost 20%. So it's quite. I mean, you would have done well if all that you had done was invested in this particular index in a decade ago, essentially. And in terms of the actual expense ratio, so this is the number that is a fee that you pay to the investors if you end up purchasing this fund instead of